Hey, Dylan.
Hey, Mike.
Dylan, do you like standing up in front of large groups and talking?
No?
Perfect. You should come speak at Codestock. You're the exact kind of speaker we want.
I would disagree with that, but,
There's some truth to that. Codestock, conference that happens in Knoxville, Tennessee. This year will be June 15th and 16th. The call for speakers is up. You can get the information at codestock.org. Our main push for speakers this year is, of course, a diversity of topics, as always. But it is a community conference, and we rely on community speakers. No one is paid for any role at Codestock. Not the organizers who run the event. Obviously, of course, we pay the venue because they're like, hey, that's our living, man. You know, like,
yeah.
we don't care about.
There aren't a lot of people who give that out for free.
No speakers are paid, no organizers are paid and all that. It's a non-profit community organized event. And, we've brought in very expert, high-level speakers. This is, been very good for the conference. We also have new speakers. We haven't really, highlighted on the fact that we are welcome to new speakers at this conference. And so this year we're going out of our way to let everyone know that new speakers are welcome. And we will do our best, on the conference organizing side to make the new speakers comfortable. Hooking up new speakers with veteran speakers to exchange tips, work on their presentations. We do session voting. So if you have an idea for a topic, but you're not sure people will be interested, submit it anyway. Let the votes decide, let people get out there and they can vote on the topic and see what's interested. If you're worried about, you've stage fright or something like that, it's not until June. So you can sit in January, you find out, in March if you've been selected, go Toastmasters, go local user groups, get comfortable, speaking and rehearsing there. Also, maybe bring a buddy, maybe get somebody else and it's like, hey, will you co-present this with me? And that'll feel a lot better.
Yeah.
So.
And it's not like a huge, a panel is not a huge audience, and usually people are pretty happy to jump in and, start a discussion, so it's not so much pressure.
Right. Open up your session and say, like, hey, this is my experience, which is valuable. So expertise is valuable. To go to a session like, hey, I'm an expert in this, and that's great to hear that session. Going to a session where somebody says, hey, not an expert, but I use this tool, or I use this method, or I tried this out, this technology, and here's our experience with it. And, a lot of times that's kind of what you want. You go out there and you can get the experience, the expert who basically tells you, this is how you do it. A, then B, then C, here's the steps and all of that. But you're kind of like, yeah, but, does it
you can
fit
get
overall?
Intro to whatever talks anywhere.
You can get those, a lot of times. So you just want to you want to find somebody who's used it and all right, man, what do you think? You're down here with me. You're a regular, Joe slinging code. What was your impression of it? So, just talking to your experience is a qualification. So we'll talk about Codestock more, in the weeks ahead as we get closer. But right now the focus is on the call for speakers. Also, if you're interested in sponsoring Codestock, contact us as well, because we're setting up sponsors, and sponsors are limited at Codestock. We secure enough sponsorship to, run the event, and then we stop. We don't NASCAR up the event with a whole bunch of logos and take a whole bunch of sponsors. So, if you're interested, jump on that early and get in one of those slots before they're all gone. That's interested. As far as, this is a game podcast, so we have had game programming sessions in the past. GameMarx, we've done live podcasts there, but we also have 9 to 5 business application development type, sessions there, all that kind of Azure, Amazon cloud services, iOS programming, Android coding, Java. We've had a couple of those, a lot of .NET and stuff as well. We've also, had talks for IT professionals, DBAs, network admins, sysadmins, that kind of thing. We've even had entrepreneurial talks, which we'll take in a few, hey, here's how to market your own app or something like that. If you got an entrepreneurial developer-focused talk, we are open to that as well. And it's 2 days out in Knoxville. If the conference is going to be $65 or $85, depending on whether you hit early bird or not. That covers both days. It covers the lunches, for that. Get a nice t-shirt. I love our t-shirts.
I'm working on it now.
Yeah, I've already given the orders for the T-shirt, so can't talk about that T-shirt though. It's all NDA up until the conference. That's my reveal. So Codestock, check out more information on that at codestock.org. All right, welcome everyone to the show. The topic this show we'll get into after news. We're going to kind of run down adventure and RPG games, kind of what makes one the other, elements, like what pieces or things you need to be thinking about if you're wanting to make one of these type of games, or even if you already are making one of these type of games. You know, what are some ideas and, you know, things to consider and ways to implement. That'll kind of be the topic. But this week, Dylan, what gaming... What have you been playing? Where's your game time?
Skyrim.
Skyrim still?
For the most part, yes.
Have you completed it, or?
No, I haven't. Actually, the main quest, I'm on some place where I have to go into, like, I have to go into a dinner party at the Falmore Embassy and sneak around, and I'm like, that seems like a lot of work. I would rather just do side quests. So
you do it beforehand.
Yes. I really, like...
Dev-wise, you were working on the storyboard thing a little bit.
Yes, and I've got that to a point where I'm ready to release. I want to put together a screencast, which I'll probably record this weekend to kind of highlight the structure of a project, since that's... I realize, you know, you look at this thing and you open it up and it's just like an explosion of, you know, property grids and stuff, and... You know,
that might be good to get, you know, some people looking at it and checking it out. Like you can see, like somebody using the tool. We can put that up on YouTube. That'll be pretty good. All right. And again, the storyboard editor that we're building, the idea behind it is to animate 2D assets. So you have a voiceover track, and you don't want to go through encoding video because you're concerned about size, because it's going to target mobile, or you're trying to hit a size limit like on Xbox Live Indie games. And so if, like, you can just do some animation with 2D art assets, and
things
storyboard that out.
Kind of comic book style.
Exactly. Doing some manga art style, animation, and add that to your game and get some really easy cutscene use out of it.
And I guess the idea is that you could hand this to maybe an artist or someone, not necessarily a developer who'd be hard coding it, but.
No, are you even in chat, by the way?
I am, but I'm trying to log in and it won't let me.
Okay, because it looked like, from my view over here, you were playing the farm game again.
Oh.
No, you switched tabs, but you could probably... If you show me your thing, it's up in one of those tabs, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
But that was during one of the blockouts, because you've tried this password too many times. Damn it!
Sweet justification. But we have been playing a new game, another social game.
Thank you!
Which highlights more of just how crazy successful a social game can take off. We've been playing Hero Academy. Now, this is an iOS. We, Cicely and I, and several friends, you chose poorly, Dylan, and are not allowed to participate in the Hero Academy.
Oh man, what am I gonna do with all that free time?
You can have the games when the iOS crowd is done with them. We've used them up. We've bent them over and had our way with them. Then they can go to Android, and you know, it would surprise me if it's not going to appear on Android anytime soon. Actually, and I was thinking, like, why isn't this a web game too? Like, you should be able to play this thing in the web, Flash or HTML5 or something. Like, it's not that complex, but it is a strategy game, like a very battle chess type, but light.
It reminded me of Final Fantasy Tactics when I saw it. Maybe not, and I mean, I saw you playing it, so that...
It didn't have any, like, menu-based type interaction on it, but you have set pieces, wizards and archers and things like that do set damage. There's no random element to things in there, for the most part. Wizard has a chain lightning spell, and it says it's random as far as what the lightning will chain to, but it seems repeatable. So, like, if it chains one way, because you get 5 moves on your turn, and so it's played like a Words with Friends. In fact, I've called it Swords with Friends. It's really what it is. So you get your 5 moves, but you can just undo your 5 moves and say, oh, well,
that
I
was
don't
an
like how that
effective
turned
move.
out. So you can kind of experiment a little bit. It's helpful, actually, for learning the game. Of like, well, if I bring this unit in and, he doesn't do too well, let me try the archer versus, that does much better. Let me try using his power-up first. Let me try, So, when I talked to you about it last night, I said, it was really simple. But as I've played a lot of it in the 24 hours since, and I have played a lot of it in the 24 hours since. Oh, let me tell you, 4 o'clock on a Friday, you can just tell how many people are slacking off at work because it's like, so-and-so moved, so-and-so's moved, so-and-so's moved, so-and-so's moved.
I love when you showed me last night, you put in your moves and you're like, okay, I will just set it down. And then, you set it down on the table, and instantly the next set of moves came in.
Yes, people are just sitting there waiting. Why won't you people move?
This is what addiction looks like
Yeah.
from the other side.
It is highly addictive. And I think because, Words with Friends is Scrabble. And it's okay, I play it.
I
it's
used to
kind
love
of,
Scrabble, so it's more addicting for me.
it's kind of okay. But, Scrabble isn't something I would just gravitate to play. This is, a little tactical, not RTS, I guess it's a strategy-based combat game. But, so, what they did that I thought was really clever from a developer standpoint is you get the game is free, and you have ads in it, okay? But instead of hey, buy the pay version and there's no ads, or here's a no-ad version, buy the DLC pack and we'll take out ads. So
it's kind of like a bonus.
Mentally it felt like a bonus. It's probably the same either way.
Is it temporary?
No.
Is it
okay,
so once you buy a DLC...
Yeah. The game is 100%
specific
free.
DLC, because he was asking me, which one do I buy to make the ads go away?
It says in the screen when the ad pops up, hey, you could buy, and then it specifically says a hero pack.
A hero pack.
And if you touch that text, it takes you to exactly what you need to buy. My problem was I was not in that screen anymore, and you only see the ads after you make a move, so I was like, well, I want to look at how much it's going to cost to buy, what do I got to buy? And there's stupid things in there too. There's I want to change my color.
I want to have
That's
a different
99
avatar.
cents. I want to have a different icon.
Well, I was asking, maybe you know this, since apparently you bought the color thing.
No, I did not buy the color thing. I know the color thing will not work, so why would you buy the color thing?
Do you keep it? Do you buy a color and keep it and have a stable to choose from? Or
Yes.
is it every time you pay, is it changing your character's
But here's the
name?
weird
in
thing.
World of
When it
Warcraft?
says on the
It's
color...
not WoW.
Or
when
server
it says on the color thing, it says you can buy a color for you or the opponent force, which tells me you've bought a local change. You're not even going to see it. It's always red versus blue. It'll always be red versus blue on my end. If you bought it and made it pink versus purple, I will never see that you're pink.
Why would you care?
And it's why would I even? That's such a lazy purchase. But buying the hero set gets you a different unit type, a unit class. So you started as humans, you can get elves. They work a little differently. They're dark elves, so they sap and heal when they do damage, but their healers overall do less power. They can resurrect the dead into little weak zombie units, little weak ghastly ghost units. And these are the things that the dark elves can do. Now, they're gonna have dwarves next. It's going to be the next pack.
Yeah. So it's kind of an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I'm concerned for them now, how long do you keep this balance? Because there's kind of a weird thing of by buying DLC, I've bought access to more units than somebody else has had.
And
imagine in StarCraft of I bought the top tier units, so I get the elite units because I paid for them. That breaks the balance of the game.
One day you're going to have monsters, and those are going to be running the field. Everybody has monsters.
It's almost collectible miniatures games HeroClix. Well, not even that. I mean, that's a card game. I'm thinking of HeroClix and D&D miniatures, where
what's the new one with the the dragons or whatever? The guys on Giant Bomb play it.
Oh, Skylanders?
Skylanders?
Yeah.
Huh.
So these are things that you go out to buy,
the Dragon.
and then you get a dock for your Xbox or your.
Oh, I'm talking about like the old fashioned,
and that unlocks it online for you. So it's still like a card game.
That particular...
But you have to buy the physical card to have that card.
And if you lose that card, you have lost those experience points.
Yeah, but what those miniatures games a lot of times would end up doing is you would have power creep. Either they would introduce new abilities or just the general level. Like in D&D miniatures, the level of the characters would go up.
But that's the problem. If you're doing it and you have this power creep, the free-to-play version guy comes in and, like, he's just going to get his ass handed to him every fight.
Yeah, and
it's like, unless you put in an option of, like, I only want to play against other free players, and developers don't want to encourage that. Not that it's this way right now. Now it's really balanced. It's just 2. So this is just speculation. If you're going to add a couple packs, like maybe your designs are, we're going to add 5 types, and we've worked out, and we'll balance these 5, and that'll be it.
No, he's actually winning a good number of times.
Well, playing with Sicily. Nathan and I got into chat about playing games with Sicily. Because, some of our friends, who nameless, we were talking about they don't play so well. Because the game does not reward just rush in and fight. It actually rewards strategic patience, planning. That's what I was saying. It's deeper than I initially assumed. And setting up moves in advance for next moves, and there is a chess element to it, and when you start playing that way, it becomes a whole different game. So Sicily plays this highly passive war of attrition game, and I was chatting with Nathan of don't play that game with her. You will lose that game. Don't get sucked into her war. Because there's crystals on the board. Yeah. And so you can win if you knock out the crystals, or you can win if you destroy all their units. Now, like Scrabble, okay, every time you play some pieces on the board, you get a random drawing from, the pieces unused up until all those, there's 20, I think, in the little vault. It's a really interesting mechanic, and it's really done well, and it's blowing up, and it's a great success social. And I really think they did it right with hey, this is free to play. Again, Jetpack Joyride. Yeah. Play the whole game. Play it free, In fact, Jetpack Joyride isn't even putting ads in your face. I don't think there's any ads anywhere.
I haven't seen any.
If they are, they're so subdued, I don't notice them at all. But I can pay for some DLC and enhance. This one, it's ad supported. I can play just fine with my units and hold my own. Or I can, get Dark Elves so I have some variety, and enhance, and then the turning off of the ads is kind of a nice, and like I said, it's a weird psychological thing, because it feels like a bonus when...
You wouldn't pay for getting rid of the ads, but you would pay for DLC, and it kind of sweetens the deal.
If I just paid for just getting rid of ads, I've never done that on Words with Friends. Words with Friends always pops up the, hey, get rid of the ads, and I've never done that.
I guess it's sort of the way 2 for $10 sounds more enticing than $5.
Possibly. Now, there was a sale going on when I did it, because it was only $2 to get to the elves, and they said it was a 50% off sale. Yeah. So, if that was $4 or $5, might have given me a little bit more pause on how much longer am I going to be involved in this. But at $2, I'm enjoying this, and here's your $2, developer. Congratulations, good game.
Well, you kind of have to get over a hurdle there where most DLC, what you're used to on the console is you've already bought the game, and this is extra, whereas this is actually what's paying for the game in this case.
Now, another interesting game mechanic they do in this that might lean towards even if the teams are unbalanced, in theory, in practice, it may not matter, because you have this random tile set. So it's not like you start with okay, you're going to have 6 wizards and 3 mages, and I've been in games where I've got 4 fucking clerics.
And you can't do anything but heal.
Yeah, alright.
The clerics are pretty good magicians against the other person, but...
But they're not, especially, later in the game when everybody's upgraded units and shit, and, you're staring down, all these, tank classes that have been upgraded.
You want a good mix of classes.
Yeah, you want a mix, and,
I'll take a wizard, white mage over a tank anyway.
They also give you super units, so each class has a super unit. I don't know if you're guaranteed to always get one.
No.
Because I can't say every game I've played down to 0 and gotten everything.
This game I have on one of them, I am down to 0 and I have not had a single superpower.
I would assume that kind of also encourages you to go, like, rematch, and thereby,
it's almost like hey, you won that, you got lucky on that.
Roll the dice
which
again.
Which is another thing Nathan and I talked about on Cicely's games of, like, she just has a devil's own luck, because it'll just be bullshit. Like, how do you get, like, 3 of those spells in a row, and then, like, the super heal, and, like, 5 ninjas? What the fuck's going on, But that's like the hero.
That was a luck of the draw.
The ninja guy, so he's a high damage class, a high DPS class, low armor, but he can swap places. And this is where the strategy comes in of, like, using your turn so that you run him out, beat the crap out of somebody, and then swap places with your tank. So then, like, at the end of the turn, he's back on the home base, next to the cleric. Your tank's out there, so it's like they can't actually get to the ninja. There's this tank. They'll beat on the tank, but the tank will still be there. Swap back again on your turn, heal your tank, damage with the ninja, swap back at the end, and now you got another stupid tank out there. That's a tactic that has won me more than one game. Like, it has turned the tide. Effective use of your super units. And again, that, adds to the, like, variety of, like, okay, let's say elves were overpowered from humans, but I got my ninja out early and managed to get an upgrade, and bam, I was, rolling pieces. And it doesn't matter that your units were outbalanced, because the way I played and the skill, the draw, and, what I got out of the randomness, of the pieces. The damage is not random. The damage is repeatable. Like, if this unit does 200 points of damage, it does 200 points of damage. If they're wearing armor, it does 150 now, and it will continuously do 150. So you can always try out alternate scenarios.
Yes, if you do the same thing, 90% of the time you will get exactly the same damage.
We've had a lot of conversations, you and I, about, like, social game ideas, and I don't want to get into our ideas on social gaming, but I think they're crazy popular, and, tying across platforms, and there's just, if you have a good social game, you're automatically telling all your friends, you're going to Twitter and bragging about how well you kicked the ass of someone else.
It's kind of a double-edged sword, though, because, like, if you have a bad social game, it is sad.
Well, but then if you have a bad game, you have a bad game. Like,
well, one that doesn't do well. Like,
but if you have a good social game,
critical mass,
you're guaranteed for more word of mouth. If you have a good game, you're not necessarily. You still got to get that out there and get people trying it. So, having a free with a paid DLC, like, this is an emerging step pattern. Which, you know what? Cutting into some news that I've got, queued up. I'll do this a little out of order now, because this segue is really beautiful. This one comes from Develop, and they have an article on here that PopCap axed a game that still had 750,000 people playing that game. And they didn't say it was unprofitable. They just said it wasn't worth it for them to continue to maintain it. It was more like a stable...
was this a social game, or was this just like a mini game?
PopCap is Bejeweled. PopCap is all of this.
But that's not necessarily social.
So they dropped
web-based.
Zip Zap Play Facebook game Baking Life. Okay, so I guess it's some kind of restaurant thing or something, and it was Facebook, so I guess it had, social. I don't know. Didn't play the whole thing. The thing is that there's a dirty flip side of these social gaming that hasn't come out to the players yet because we're still very new. The gamers start to realize, like, hey, you're tied into a service.
Yeah.
And you bought some DLC, but then the company decided we're not getting any out of, like, Hero Academy, we got out of what we wanted out of it. And we're a small man team, and we're not going to keep the servers up because we have these other games that took off well, so we're just going to kill it. And you can't play it anymore. This is the dirty side of the DRM games. Everybody talks about, like, the DRM system, like, one day you'll buy all these Steam games and there'll be no more Steam, and you're fucked.
Yes.
Hey, how about one day you buy all these Xbox indie games and there's no more
Xbox Live.
Yeah, well, not necessarily Xbox Live, but if you're
Xbox Live for 360.
If 720 Xbox ships and there's no indie game service, like your games, there's no chance of those coming over. They're trapped on this old console. It's not like you can burn them to disk. And you do need to log into Live, so when they shut down Live services for the 360,
the Live services are the issue because
you have to log into Live to play.
Yeah, there's always that platform lock that you have. Like, this is for this platform. I can't. It's a hassle if I want to go back and play my old Nintendo games. But, if my old Nintendo games had required Nintendo to have a service up, then that's the issue.
Oh yeah, guy in chat there, his name is Green. It's impossible for me to read. Gotcha Grad. Mentioned that it's developed by Robot Entertainment, and their Orcs Must Die is another game that they did. Because I was on their site today looking at it, and I was on there vetting that they were an indie. Because I wanted to break down the mechanics in Hero Academy and do a video on that, like we did for Evil Quest that we have coming up. Where we just talk as developers and just kind of give our thoughts on the mechanics used in the game.
Tech grad. There we go.
And I went to, unfortunately, I don't think there's a good way that I can record video off of an iPad or my iPhone. The video out cables that you can get for it, they're an auxiliary send. It's not screen mirroring.
Okay.
So I was thinking I could screen mirror over that, and then I would just use our normal equipment to record. And then I just went down this dark path on the internet of all these people of how the hell do you do this? And they're all using emulators or jailbreaking, or it's if you see a site that's doing that, like a review site, Giant Bomb sometimes does iPad apps, Tested.com does them more. They've probably jailbroken their devices, and I'm not ready to go that route. But if I jailbreak it, then I could do that. There's tons of stuff, and actually some really cool stuff that'll send your screen remotely over Wi-Fi, So I might play around and see what other is. I don't like the idea of just pointing a camera at the screen and trying to, because that'll
look kind of hokey.
That'll look hokey and cheesy. And then you gotta touch the screen. I was kind of wanting to do the nice presentation aesthetic of, here's the screen, and then here's a little video of me holding, just me holding the phone so you can see what my fingers are doing while I'm talking or something. So I wanted to do that, and I wanted to break down Hero Academy. The closest looks like I could get an AirPlay with an Apple TV, and that'll do a mirroring, it sounds like, but that thing is only HDMI out. And recording off of HDMI is problematic, because we went down that route when we tried to record off the Xbox 360. And
yeah, you can buy I can't remember what they're called, but that'll convert to component out. But
yeah, you get into some very expensive solutions, and the problem is that they all embed the DRM, the rights management of the HDMI protocol. And so if you plug the Xbox into a recording device and it knows it's a recording device, it will not boot properly or do things or shut down certain segments. Usually gameplay will run, but if you tried to go into Netflix, then boom, you get no video. Because you're not connected to a device that responds correctly. That's part of the spec and the protocol, and that's what makes it more problematic. Because it's a Sony old thing where Sony had the on the DAT tapes they had a bit, if this bit was set, then you shouldn't copy it, and it was well, just get a deck that ignores that bit and copy it anyway. Unfortunately, we're at a stage now where they're all gonna honor that bit. So I was I really like being able to record over the component. It works well for us, and our systems don't have to worry about a lot of other issues with HDMI. But I don't know that that's going to happen. Also, news in social gaming. This is just kind of a let's all take a moment to collectively laugh. Zynga losing about $150 on every new paying customer.
Losing $150 on every new paying customer.
Zynga went through, what did the article say here? This is also on Develop. They added 400,000 additional players. So they went up from 3 million to 3.4 million. And they spent $120 million marketing basically with the expense of acquiring new customers. So they did targeting marketing to acquire new customers, and like an analyst basically is like, okay, it's from this math, and they've published their revenue numbers and all that, and he dug in the numbers, and they basically, for their paying customers, I guess if Zynga gets their hooks in you, they get their hooks in pretty good.
Yeah.
Because
I would imagine so.
Over the course of a year, or over the course of the customer lifetime, I think they said the customers stick with them for like 12 to 15 months, and they get $300 out of that customer. That number was high. I question that number.
That is crazy. I imagine the first purchase is the tough one, and then after that, it's kind of like, oh, okay.
Oh, no. I'm sorry. They get 150 out of a customer.
That sounds right.
He worked out of the math, like they basically spent, to get the 400,000, they spent $300 per customer, so they're losing $150 per customer acquired. Like,
I wonder, that's counting, like, I wonder how many new free players that is, though.
Well, and they're just focusing on like things published, like, hey, this is what we net in paying customers.
Well, they may be running into the problem that a lot of web apps have had with, freemium.
It raises the question: why the hell would you even stock invest in a game company?
What do you mean?
I mean, like, okay, if I invest in a retail chain, okay, let's say Mike's Dry Goods, okay.
Okay.
And Mike's Dry Goods is just tearing it up in Georgia and Tennessee. And, like, we're opening up in Virginia and all of this. Like, yeah, I want to invest in Mike's Dry Goods because they're doing this awesome thing. People like going to Mike's Dry Goods. And they can open up all these new retail stores across the country. That's the growth that Mike's has, So for the next 5 to 10 years, Mike's going to grow like crazy. And then you're going to have the problem of it's going to be a retail chain, and the growth, it's going to be margins, and it's not going to be a big growth. But while you're in that growth period, that's great. For a game company, it's really title to title. I mean, it's kind of like a movie studio. It's like, I'm going to release this movie, and it may do well, and it may not. And then I'm going to release this game, and it may do well, and it may do not. Like, how do you, say, oh, we're going to grow because every game we release is going to sell more than the prior game? That just seems stupid to believe that.
Well, I don't know. Like your Mike's Dry Goods example, at some point, I think you're going to hit a point where if you grow it by expanding into new regions, you're just going to get too big for what unless you're doing something like Walmart, which is, becoming everything and crushing the competition.
Let me guarantee you, Dylan, if your Mike's Dry Goods is going public on the stock market,
yes,
they're going Walmart. Okay, they've already made that decision. They've already had teams come in and set them up for the IPO.
They have already
management
killed
consultants.
off all the people that will make them publics.
Well, exactly.
Yeah. Anybody who is like, oh, this is just a fun family company, yeah, they're gone.
Well, exactly. Like, there is a cap to what you can do. I think there's a cap to what you can do.
That's what I said. Once Mike's Dry Goods has expanded across the country,
yeah,
and either they try to go international with it, or it's like, okay, now there's a there's a Starbucks fucking everywhere.
Yes,
there's no more growth in Starbucks. The thing I'm saying is, there's no analogy in games. Games don't have a game studio doesn't have we're going to keep growing because every title we release will be bigger than even take Notch in Minecraft, okay? He's working on some other games. These games will probably be reasonably successful based on his name.
But there will probably be a drop-off.
But there will probably be some peaks and troughs, and it's not, why? This doesn't make sense to me. Why would you invest in Zynga under the thinking of, Zynga's gonna keep kanking out. They're just gonna do variants on Words with Friends and Farmville, and people will keep buying them. And it's no, they won't.
Zynga is, it's very web bubble, early 2000s, late 90s, thinking of this is the next big thing. Keep pouring money into it. And nothing can go wrong.
That's probably what I think their IPO is. Their IPO is a bubble of, there's social gaming.
Yes.
That's the buzzword. Look at every time, Steve Jobs would get up and talk, he would just talk about how much their games are making them, and, games are the number one seller on all the mobile devices, and it's these guys are doing that, and, you know.
Freemium is the new buzzword.
Yeah. Freemium. And once that kind of once the hype plays itself out, then you're getting to what's my maximum? What's my cap? What are the issues I have to run into
Also, barrier to entry.
Yes.
There aren't many. You know,
they're not.
Like I'm talking about this indie now. Okay, so Robot Entertainment that did or Robot Software or just
I actually did go to their
did the Hero Academy. These guys did the People.
Yeah.
These guys founded Ensemble Studios, launched like the Age of Empires series and shit like that. These aren't like some green guys, but from a corporate standpoint, they're a brand new player on the marketplace. Yes. Boom, sweeping it overnight, and like a big established player like Zynga, like, yeah, they're taking market share from you, because guess what? All your guys that were addicted to Words with Friends, that's sitting in the background now. Like, that's, like, the only time I play my Words with Friends is when nobody's moved on Hero Academy.
Well, the problem with a lot of these games is that we tend to think, and maybe we are locked into kind of like the on-disc title sort of thinking for these things, but a lot of the casual games are kind of based in this cycle of novelty. Like, this is awesome because it's new. And then, you know, when time goes on, you get bored of it. You want something new. You want something basically the same as what you had, but you want something new, so you move on to the next thing. If Zynga can provide that, great. If someone else can provide it, sure, whatever.
And there's
no
not
brand
much
loyalty.
of a barrier to somebody else taking it. And again, yeah, they're going to crash so hard.
And they're simple games.
And
I mean, they're,
in 6 months or whatever.
It's not like you're developing a Call of Duty.
Because there's usually there's a term put on like your stock sales. So if you work at a company, it goes public, you'll be bound for like so long that you can't sell your shares. Okay, essentially.
Yeah.
And that will come up for a number of the employees all at the same time. And then these guys will cash out and leave because I hear it's a shit place to work and. Like, this is just a train wreck waiting to happen.
It's the cycle.
But I think that
that's the way
needs to happen for Wall Street to get burned by a little bit of a bubble and just stay out of, like... Because when I started messing with the stock market, I looked at, like, Activision. I'm like, fucking Blizzard, man. Money hand over fist, and they're making money. But, like, the stock's never moving. And then it was, like, more of realizing, like, oh, the stock market pays for growth. And WoW's not going to get bigger.
Well, the stock market is kind of working on future values.
That's
or predicted,
growth,
yeah. Well, no,
If the future is the same as it is now...
No, what I mean is...
stock doesn't go up.
What I mean is, like, predictable. It's, you know, like, you pretty much know what Blizzard's gonna do. You know, they're not taking a whole lot of gambles.
It's a ton of gamble, dude. Like, it is not guaranteed. There's a lot.
It's not guaranteed, but it's not.
People that bought $10 million, whatever, Zynga. You know, a lot of gamble, a lot of risk going on there. But they are hedging their bets, and it is betting. It is not that predictable on growth, on the fact that this is going to be bigger in the future. That Apple is going to come out with an iPhone 5, and their market share is going to go up another 5%. And if that becomes the common accepted wisdom, then their stock price reflects not the current iPhone 4S, but the iPhone 5 taking 5% market share. And this is where they fail to meet expectations. This is how a company can go out and they are profitable, they've grown, and then their stock falls because it's like, no, we wanted you to take 5% market share. That was, you know, the hype machine. That was where we were at. It always seems like no company, the hype always exceeds, like all these companies. Cause even like Apple shares will like, the day of the earnings call fall because it wasn't like, oh, you're not your own country yet? What? Oh, fuck. I thought you were your own country by now.
Well, what I was kind of getting at was the stock market works on the idea of, is this undervalued, is this overvalued, not what is the present value, you know, what is the value right now of this?
But, what I'm saying is that overvalue, undervalue is future growth.
Yes.
And that's what they're paying for. And there's just not growth in game studios. Like, I mean
all things eventually settle
for the studio.
Yeah.
And they can have some good titles but where's the return on investment on that? Like, all my profits are basically going to go into hiring more people and building the next game. I mean, you hear stories all the time of these game studios with all these great hits. And then they, had a flub or two, done, gone, studio's gone. No more, like they're selling their IP and they're out, Also, game studios are risky investments anyway in the current model, because usually they get the larger contracts, they go with the publisher, which then takes the IP rights away. So the studio themselves, it's harder and harder for them to keep the IP until they get to a certain size, and when they get to a certain EA Activision size, stock doesn't move anymore, because it's like, you're just a distributor now, and games as a market isn't growing a whole lot for what you're distributing, because, EA is basically a disc-based game distributor, and if anything, that market might shrink in the next coming years, not grow. They're not capturing the mobile growth.
The thing with Zynga, and this is where it's not necessarily growth, but it's like, social gaming is going to be huge. It's, they don't realize that there's going to be a place for companies like Zynga. It's going to settle into a position in the market, but what that position is not what they think it's going to be.
All right. Relevant news here. Of course, there was all the SOPA and the PIPA and all of that stuff went down this week, and the blackouts and all that. Destructoid had a little thing that the ESA actually gave $190,000 for lobbyists. So, I mean, there's a whole thing of, like, the game studios saying, hey, we don't support it, but we're part of the ESA that does. It's funny because the ESA came out today after the senator from Texas who introduced the legislation or whatever pulled it back into committee, basically admitted defeat.
This thing is basically poison, right? And, like, you do not want to touch it.
Exactly. Everybody's backed out of it, so he had to can it. After he canned it, the ESA came out and spoke against it. I'm like, yeah, that's a bunch.
Wasn't the Penny Arcade strip today, like, EA was for it, EA was against it, but, or one of the game studios. I don't know.
A lot of the game studios came out against it. But aren't you part of the ESA who's for it? And didn't you hire the ESA to represent you legally? Yeah, so like, you're talking out your ass. And unless you stand up and say, like, some have, because they're mostly smaller studios, but some have said, hey, I'm not going to be at E3, because E3 is the ESA show, backed and, sponsored by the ESA and all that. Like, I'm out of it. Until you guys act up and fly right and represent or something. There was a big nasty thing with the Video Game Voters Network. That's an ESA-backed thing, and did the whole free speech campaign when there was that Supreme Court ruling, like, hey, we need to protect free speech.
I vaguely remember that.
Silence on SOPA. Because they were controlled by the ESA, and it's like, oh, we weren't a grassroots organization. We were just, beating the drums to get you guys, you dumb idiots, to support our current issue because it affected us negatively. But now that it doesn't, we don't care what the video game voters do, because you're not really a grassroots organization. So I toyed with, like, the idea of, like, darkening our sites or something like that, but at the end of the day, I was like, I don't want to put the code to bother, make a deployment for that.
Or even just, like, shut it down.
Yeah, well, shut it down doesn't do any good, because people don't know why it's down.
Yeah.
And not have to answer DNS, like, why is your site down, all those kind of things. But it is very dangerous. The legislation would be very dangerous to a GameMarx, to Xbox Indies, because all it would take is one disgruntled developer, and we've had a couple of those.
I can't imagine any indie game
to say, like, hey, those videos are my copyrighted material of my game. And boom, GameMarx offline, done. And, it's like, even though that's all fair use footage, that we use the game and its commentary and it's completely allowed and everything like that, that's not the way the bill worked. The bill worked, shut it down.
And then we'll figure it out.
And then, go to the court and figure it out, and stand in line. Meanwhile, we're offline, we can't communicate, we can't have ads up, if we were more commercial adventure, like advertisers would pull if the whole thing collapses and, all of that. So, I mean, it's very dangerous legislation. Won't be the last we hear of it, though. It will be back as writers on other things, and it'll slip back in. I don't know if the fervor that caught this one will catch the others, because I think a lot of it had to do with GoDaddy. Because if GoDaddy, in December, hadn't taken out that dumbass full-page opinion ad, and just basically said, like, you guys just need to like this and shut up, and pissed everybody off. Like, I don't know that it would have been as big as a deal as it is right now.
I think what's going to have to happen is, the this is going to have to influence people voting this year, or because I don't think the people who are really against this can maintain like this stance of perpetual war. Like at some point, it's like, no, you guys are just pissed off to be pissed off.
They can do
to some level.
Hopefully there will be a good tide changing in the election, and by that I mean not Democrat to Republican or vice versa. I mean incumbents out and new people in.
Yes.
I mean that's without getting some laws changed on lobbying. And
lobbying is the big thing.
And corporate money influencing in government without like, hey, because I was joking at work today. It's like we were talking about emailing, Congress and all that, and I was saying like really what they do is because one guy was saying like, my friends and all, I got the same form reply from our Senator Bob Corker, and I was like, well, first of all, he's an asshole, but second, I was like, well, what they do is they don't, they're not reading them and all that. They basically, your email comes in, your email's on an issue, and they put down tick marks of for or against, and then they just report totals of like, we had this many emails come in, and 60% of the people were against the issue you support, and we've had this many phone calls come in, and they were on that.
That's the only way they can really handle it.
And at a certain, it is kind of a, hey, this is a polling of constituents in a sense. Now, because of the emailing and all that, I don't think there's a trust in that. I think those numbers are more dismissed. Like phone calling carries a lot more weight if you're willing to call up and say, hey, I am against this, you need to vote against this, and this will affect my voting. You don't need to really actually make like a stand like that. You just need to say, hey, I'm against this and I'm a constituent of yours. This is me communicating to you. Done. You make the tick mark, and phone calls are very high, I would imagine, ranked. But I was joking. I was like, you probably just go like, oh, how many emails did we get? Okay, how many checks were in those emails? Oh, none. That's right. Like, forget it. And like, where's the lobby mail? Oh, here's the lobby mail. Look at all the checks in the lobby mail.
Well, I think there are two sides to this. Like SOPA, and this is why, a future bill will probably pass, because SOPA managed to get that kind of outrage. You don't, like, at that point, the number of emails to the negative is probably so high that you're scared to death, but
on an average issue,
on an average
generic,
issue,
like
it doesn't matter what you're for or against.
Universal IDs, where they've been trying to pass a
like
national ID act to where we all have to have like national ID cards, and there's a national ID database, and usually where the stuff usually goes wrong is the privacy concerns over this database.
Yeah.
Like, oh, so you've just made one sweet honey pack for the social engineering hacker. Like, they get this, they got everything. Everything is linked together. Because even though in the U.S. it's used all over the place, you're legally not supposed to be using your social security number for anything other than social security matters. Although I remember when I got my driver's license in Oklahoma in the military, my driver's license ID was my social security number.
That was
really
the same way too until a little while ago, a few years back.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
But I mean,
that meant that if you got a job, once they saw your driver's license, they knew all your, you had a birth certificate and whatnot. And
so there's a whole bunch of, issues around that. That doesn't generate the level of emails and stuff like that, on there. And it won't.
Well, I think a lot of it too was, you had companies like Google and Wikipedia or organizations like Wikipedia get behind it.
Also, the thing about SOPA is it doesn't even have to just be like we post a video on it. If you have forums and somebody posts a comment and in that comment attach an image, or, it wasn't even clear, like links to infringing, like you're liable for a link now. And from that I can shut down your site. If you're Google, that's it. You're done, man. Game over. They'll shut you down in a heartbeat. And it's just, and then the flip side of the argument is, or not the flip side of the SOPA, like pro-SOPA arguments, but the flip side to consider here is like, they come at it with like the whole job creation and all that, and like the numbers have come out on the entertainment industry, and they don't contribute that much to the the economy, actually. They have a pretty consistent employment number. It hasn't changed, even in depressions and all. In fact, actually in depressions, entertainment does quite well, because it's like, all right, I'm gonna spend $10 and go to a movie because my life sucks and I want to.
That's where you're gonna splurge. You're
like
gonna
that's
save
Gone with the Wind,
else.
man. Gone with the Wind, right in the middle of the Great Depression. Like, a whole that's somewhere over the rainbow and shit.
Yeah, actually, I would be a little bit afraid if the entertainment industry was a significant chunk of our national economy, because that's like, we're not producing anything useful. We are screwed.
Yes, exactly. All we can do is reinvent shit we've already done, and like, let's take another old movie. They're remaking Total Recall. Did you know that?
Mm-hmm.
No, I did not know.
Yes, they're going to remake Total Recall, and
sadden you.
is it Born Identity guy that's doing
That's like
it?
the 80s. That's like an 80s movie. It shouldn't be.
And it holds up like an 80s movie too. Oh,
I never
man,
saw
there's
it,
just
so
some
there you
bad. It wasn't CG at the time, and maybe it should have been, Yeah, so they don't have that much. They don't employ that many people. They don't have any job loss to show over like the last like 2 decades worth of like going like pre-Napster era. Like, you guys haven't grown or hired. You seem to be pretty consistent as like what you employ. So this whole like piracy's costing jobs, you don't have that. And that's one of the things. Like, Senator Lamar Alexander, I think that's the guy from Texas.
From Texas?
Or Lamar Stevens. Or
yes, okay.
Lamar Alexander's our guy, right?
Yes.
Yeah. 'Cause I always see Lamar and I'm like, fuck, it's from Tennessee. Oh, it's not from Tennessee. Thank God it's not us again. There's so much of this bullshit legislation has had like Tennessee Senator Lamar or Bob Corker on. I'm like, fuck. Can I just not be from the state that introduced the bill? It
is kind of funny that it would be from Texas. Like, Tennessee, we've got Nashville,
Yeah. So he's the one that introduced it, and he came out and like when he pulled it and said like, they're costing $100 million from the economy, or $100 billion, or some number. And I was like, where the fuck did you get that number out of? Where did you pull that number out of? You cannot dollar figure piracy. You cannot. You can go in to your warehouse in China that was printing false DVDs and selling them on the internet, and like go, okay, we probably lost this because these people bought a DVD, they were going to buy a DVD, and these fuckers pirated it and they made money.
But even then you're buying it for like half the price.
You are buying it for half the price, but you can say like, hey, there's some like these people wanted to buy this movie, and yeah, some of them would have bought it and all that. When somebody BitTorrents something, you can't say that was a lost sale.
They don't even care most of the time.
Like people who are BitTorrenting, usually kids, they don't have money to buy the shit anyway. Like, so you can't say that they're lost sales. I'm not saying that the BitTorrent was right. I'm not saying that content theft is right. I'm just saying that you can't just say that every torrent, every download equals full retail price lost sale. That's insane.
Yeah. Many times we would have just gone to the theater.
What the numbers have actually shown, when anybody's actually dug into numbers, is like the height of Napster was also the height of music sales. The periods of highest piracy have coordinated to the highest piracy by the consumer have coordinated to highest sales by industry. Because it's like, oh, you gotta check that out, and it's like people are talking about it, and it puts it out there.
Introduced me to
Viacom, their whole YouTube suit.
I bought the CD.
No, I had not heard about that.
That was a while ago. Like the whole Daily Show and the writers' strike and all that shit. That was Viacom suing YouTube, and
I've completely forgotten about it. Apparently.
Oh, okay, all right.
There you go.
Wow.
I don't know. Like, I don't remember.
Yeah, the whole writers on strike and the YouTube thing, and Viacom suing YouTube over content infringement and wanting.
I remember the writers'
fees,
strike. But
and
that was
it was all tied around the same thing. Like the lawsuit was going on. The Viacom was telling the writers that their digital distribution rights were worthless. They don't need anything. At the same time, suing YouTube because their digital distribution on there was worth billions. Okay. And it was like, what the fuck's going on here? But it came out in that depositions and lawsuits basically that Viacom was uploading their own shit to YouTube with fake accounts to make it look like it was pirated. Like they would film a TV.
Passed
they
around?
would upload clips. Yes, because people talking about clips of Family Guy get more people watching Family Guy.
Wow.
And they knew this, and they did it anyway. So the whole, like, the argument that it's costing the money that it's costing is not there. Now, I am totally for busting in the people who are profiting off of piracy directly.
Yes.
Okay? So the whole Ninja Video chick that's going to jail for all that, who set up the site and, was like profiting off of ads and revenue from the site that was designed to trade video and all of this stuff. Like, okay, you set a profit scheme off of 90% content infringement. You know what's going on here. Yeah, you get criminal, dude. If you violate copyright at a wholesale level, that is a criminal offense, and I agree with that. That is theft. That qualifies. It is not theft when a consumer downloads it. That's different. That's a copyright violation. That's a different statute. Mega upload. There's a whole news thing going in there to shut that down. Although, as the details are coming out from the Department of Justice on them, it sounds like they're not any way, shape, or form have anything to claim, like, we were targeted unfairly or anything like that.
They were actually doing a lot of...
There's a letter from Google in 2007 from Google to Mega Upload. You can no longer use AdSense. 90% of the links that we have into your site, we have verified as infringing material. Sorry. We're not allowing you to do ads because this is just a content infringement site. We're pulling out. That's in 2007.
That's interesting, and I hope, because
that's not like recent. That's not like last week.
Well, yeah, but because it happened right after SOPA, people were just absolutely pissed off about it, and like hopefully this is going to be like, no, temper your opinions. Understand that there is another side of it.
Fucking bad. I would have waited a month. I would have hold on, kicking down their door and shutting. We got the warrants. We got the evidence. We're gonna wait a month because of this whole SOPA hysteria and all that going on. Yeah. Instead, what did you get? You get Anonymous doing takedowns of sites and which again, they're rushing judgment.
I saw people tweeting the U.S. government did this without SOPA. It's basically a conspiracy theory.
They did, but as it's coming out from the Department of Justice, like some of the allegations.
Well, no, that's due process.
Some of the allegations
that's fine.
Are money laundering and racketeering. Now, if this comes out to be like a fucking PayPal refund of 37 cents was money laundering, busting Capone for postage or something, fuck that. That's bullshit. But if it comes out of no, and the dude who runs this thing, he's got things going on in 15 countries and shell organizations set up all over the place.
Weird, shady stuff happening.
He's got a photo of him in front of his Mercedes-Benz that says guilty. His license plate says fucking guilty, And
wow.
He's just this hick-looking dude with his shotgun and his gold chain and all that, and I'm like...
Tell me he didn't have a white beater on.
No, because he just had all black. He was in all black. But,
thank you.
It's man, this isn't gonna be... This is always the cases with the, gold farmers.
Yeah.
Okay? Because you always think, no, fuck Blizzard. I do own some rights to my account. I can sell my account if I want.
It's my account. I have paid the
gold,
money.
I paid for it. I put in time. I don't like the idea of them saying, no, we own everything, and then them turning around and having an account transfer service where they charge you for it. It's you guys are playing both ends against the middle, and I don't like that. I don't like it. And,
yeah.
I think it's just kind of bullshit. Just because you throw it in an EULA that you make everybody click an update to, there's a sunk cost in that. They throw you up an ELA, and you've put $350 into WoW now, and they change terms on you. No, that's bullshit. So I'm with that. But anytime a gold farming case goes to court, they're using all these hacks and exploits, and they were doing all this dirty shit, and they had a guy on the inside, and it's
it's
they weren't
never
just gold farming.
Well, okay, if you're to the point where you're trying to make money off of it, you're going to do everything. You have given up.
But it's when they come in the court and they're yes,
honesty.
They hacked these systems, Your Honor. They committed corporate espionage. It doesn't matter. The court never has to rule on the decision of is the EULA justified. These 18 other things they did, broke wiretapping laws and all that, done.
And that sounds like kind of the same issue with Mega Upload.
Let's beat up on Microsoft while we're in rage mode here.
Yes.
Microsoft denies security problems with Xbox Live. We talked about last week with the thing. They continue to hammer to it now. This is not going to be good. This is not going to sit well with anyone. We have a mutual friend. He was hacked, and I spent some time chatting with him about it because I was like, okay. Oh no, he's like, I had a crazy complex password. And I was like, but how long was it? Because if it's like 6 characters, 7 characters, this web request method, that becomes in the realm of hacking if Xbox.com, allows you just to do a brute force attack. Like, the technology's at the point where 6, 7 characters even random.
Yeah.
Well, no. It turned out, like, he's using the password keeper and all that shit, and he sent me his password. Like, this was the password. And I'm like, holy fucking shit. That's like, it pisses me off that you're limited to 16 characters, by the way. But that's like a full 16 character, a whole bunch of crazy ass generated password that it was only, and he's like, it wasn't my password safe because they're not into anything else, so it wasn't like any of that. And I was like, so it was your live account. What were they doing with it? Were they buying things on this? Ironically, they were buying indie games. It was like they were buying a whole shitload of indie games. And then I was like, you evil motherfucker, why do you hate indie games? Why would you stop this? What do you have against the indies, that you can't support some sales there?
This wasn't the FIFA thing?
No, it wasn't FIFA. It wasn't, so it was a very different tact. But, I mean, that he's got this one-use password. Like, now, I'm really paranoid at this point.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to unlink my card, and I can't fucking unlink my card from Microsoft.
So what is the news?
I got tired of waiting on hold on support. Because that's what he said. He's called support, and they're the shittiest ass support in the world on this. Microsoft has a major train wreck coming on their hands. This is going to hit class action. There's already blog sites set up just aggregating stories. Just like, okay, here's your story. Boom. We've cataloged, and you can like scan through them all and find stories similar to yours, and everybody's putting up their story of like how they were hacked, what their password was like, what their response from Microsoft was, how many months it took for them to resolve stuff. Now I changed my password on Live, okay? So I went in there and made sure I had a 16-character password and took up the max limit and everything. I did not have to re-enter it on my Xbox console. Now, and I don't log into, mine is not an auto login. It was saved, my login was saved, but because there's a lot of people who log into our Xboxes, my girls, Cicely, and all that, none of our consoles come up in auto login. But my account and profile was saved. So essentially, if I had managed to hack this account, and I had it on my box, and then I changed my password, still logs in just fine. Once you can log in, you can use the linked Visa card and do everything. I've prevented nothing.
Now, what I wonder, though, is, okay, if you logged in here, but if you logged into another Xbox, would you
Well, the very first time you log in, of course, you have to type in the password.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you're already hacked and don't know it, too bad.
Because I was going to say, the old system, before the roaming profile thing, if you logged in on another Xbox, you would have to go back and download your profile on the other one and actually log in and type in your password. So
it's the close your shirt thing.
I don't know.
Doesn't sound like it doesn't sound like an issue where somehow they hacked it, got online, or got your security token. I'm sure there's some sort of security token involved in that. And
now the fact that they got this guy's password, though, I mean, is like, okay, this was done through other means.
Yes.
This has come through another mean, and I didn't get a full chance to talk to him and just run down. Okay,
phishing.
Are you using True Achievements? Are you using an Android Live Xbox Live status guy? That you typed in a password in or something like that. Because Microsoft doesn't do OpenID. They have no OAuth authentication methods. Basically, what that is that, like on Twitter, you don't put your password into your Twitter client. You go to Twitter and you authorize TweetDeck. And then TweetDeck gets a token. And anytime you want, you could go blow out TweetDeck's access by logging into Twitter.com and reviewing what you've given access to. I mean, because I went down everything. I went down my Gmail account and realized, like, oh, wow. Because some blogs have done OpenID. And so, like, I've logged in and commented on their blog with my Gmail account, and, like, your Google account, like, you know, your ID has been used over on these sites have ID access. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck them. If I comment on them again, I'll give them access again, but I'm just going to trim this up to the sites I use. I activated two-factor authentication for my Google account. Again, why the fuck Microsoft doesn't have this on Xbox Live? So now if I go and I log in...
Blizzard has it on WoW.
On any
hacking
of my...
is a big deal there.
Yeah. If I go in and I log in on any of my Google stuff, any of my Google services, from a system that I haven't logged into, and I think it's going to reset every 30 days. I'm not 100% on that. So every 30 days I might get it as well. I'm going to get a text message to my phone with some numbers, and then I'm going to enter those numbers, and that's going to prove that, yeah, that's actually me there. And they have a way, like if you're not at your phone, like you can go in there if you want and set up, like, okay, I'm not on my phone, so I need an alternate way to do this two-factor thing. I didn't turn that on, because I was like, no, I don't want that. I don't want the you know, question that I'll never remember the answer to. There was some comic about that. Like, he called in and, like, okay, just to reset your account, we need to know the answer to your question. What is your favorite sport? And he's like, another question? What is your favorite hobby? Oh shit. Another question.
You actually have to, it's basically another type of password.
What is your best skill? You know? And he's like, alright, fuck. Look, dude, the answer to all of them is masturbation. And could you please change them all to football? And I'm just gonna hang up and call back. And get somebody else. Yeah. So, Element City, he knew that comic. He'd go to that masturbation in the chat. Or maybe, you know, Virtual Shackles. Yeah, that was it. It was Virtual Shackles. I love that comic.
I've heard the name, but
they're a new comic I've gotten turned on to recently, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna go back and read your old comics. You guys are pretty good. So, it's scary right now. I'm gonna call up Microsoft again, maybe try to wait on hold a little bit longer. And go through the process, but I'll probably get the whole dick runaround like, oh, can't do that because you have a family account and you have a creators club. And it's like, I've gone into billing and the billing shows them all as like, they're canceled. They will not auto renew. I will have to manually renew these. But
it's better than getting hacked.
I don't want to have to renew these with a saved card on Microsoft right now. And, I'm probably what I'm going to go in and do is switch cards to an actual Visa card, not a debit card, and have a barrier of protection there. And then if shit happens, I'm just going to call Visa and say, fuck Microsoft, Visa. I'm letting you know, charge all that shit back to them, because they won't let me unlink it. They have these known hacks going on. It's documented. I called them. I've done everything on my end. Fuck them. And you know what happens on chargebacks with the company? If enough people do that, Visa ups the Visa rate.
For that company? Like for that company, to pay more?
And if it gets really bad, like Visa ups the rate for your industry. Wow. Like the porn industry has a higher rate for credit cards because, you know, husbands get that and like, what? FuzzyPinkDildos.com. I never went there, dear. That is something I would have never done. I will call and protest this charge. Look how indignant I am, dear. You know, like, that has happened so many times that, they're pretty
all
much,
of you!
Yeah.
Plus, I'm imagining it's
like okay, we can do this, but we're taking a fucking 15% cut because we're gonna deal with a lot of chargebacks on your ass.
Plus, I imagine it's like the, WoW, gold farmers. Like, if you're doing that, you're involved in some other stuff, too.
Yes. Yeah, on all that.
There's some other shady dealings.
That's really what I want to highlight. Like, you know, more is coming out in light of this. Take steps to protect your shit. Make sure your Microsoft shit is isolated away from your other shit because there's something funny going on, and Microsoft's not copping to it. And when they get caught, it's gonna be worse than a Red Ring of Death. I think it's gonna piss a lot of people off.
Even if it's not as widespread as the PSN. Issue.
The denial is what's going to rub it in.
Yes, that's what's going to, like, PSN did the honorable thing and pulled it down.
You wanted to mention this one.
Yes.
Visual Studio Achievements. Now, are these actual live achievements? Because I saw this and I didn't care.
They're not live. They're on Channel 9. I actually downloaded this just for the heck of it. I like it. I like the concept because this is gamification. I mean, this is the buzzword.
Jane McDougal will be so proud. We're saving the world through gamification.
No, I don't think we are. I think we can do some good things. Like there's some achievements for example, use F10 to step through, use F11 to step into, X number of times and you get an achievement. That's cool. It kind of acts as this sort of carrot on a stick, like, go over here, try this, it's something here, there's something here, you may want to look at. I wish a lot more Visual Studio features had achievements like that, because I might actually, play around with them.
Are they, for the most part, tutorial-based?
No.
Or do you think this is just a gimmicky, some guys inside of Microsoft? Because this would be good if it was tutorial-based. If it was like, hey, use the profiler and optimize a function that is running slow. And
they actually do have one like that. Use the profiler on a function, and it's usually simple stuff. It's stuff that you could go in and create a new project and get the achievement for if you wanted. But it's kind of broken up into different sections. There are some that are jokes, some that are clearly jokes, create a class with 10 levels of inheritance, create a class with 100 fields, just stuff that you would never do.
You think.
Create a project with 25, well...
You got the source code to Inkablocks is up. I wonder how many achievements the source code to Inkablock would automatically unlock.
No, they are grouped into different sections, don't try this at home, or Power Coder, or Visual Studio Unleashed, so you can tell what the different groups are. Like I said, I think...
Is there an achievement for 80% of your RAM is now claimed by Visual Studio processes?
No, but there is an achievement for a project that takes more than 5 minutes to compile or something crazy like that. And it is, the name of the achievement is Time for an Upgrade.
Yeah.
But, okay.
An achievement for longest survival with memory leaks?
No.
Oh.
No. They're never really making fun of Visual Studio, although some... Anyway, I'll get to that in a second. I think this could be used well. There's some achievements there that show how achievements could actually be used well. And there are some, regional manager, use 10 region tags in a class, create a project, or open a solution that has 50 projects in it, or open a project that has 25 references. There are these things that they might be a representation of, holy crap, you're working on this big project. Yes, you get an achievement for this. But it seems like they could get into the area of, and I don't know if this is something that, the whole gamification buzzword could, the dark side of it is, coding is such a dogmatic thing a lot of times. You have the people, who say, you must do it this way, you must not do, and there are always arguments, especially over things like unit testing and things like that. It's just I have the regional manager achievement. Is that going to alienate me? Should I feel bad? Am I going to see people making fun of other people for that? People who don't think you should use,
I don't know. I think, like I said, I didn't care. I saw it and it was whatever. Same with Stack Overflow achievements. In fact, they're fucking annoying. Oh, look, you've got the haven't logged in and such and get the fuck out of my way. I'm here to look for a question and find information.
Oh yeah,
the whole achievements outside of games thing. Now, like I said, if it was strictly tutorial based and it was progress oriented, that would be something. But otherwise, I really don't care. Ben Kane still keeping on the post. If you haven't been over to benkane.wordpress.com, go check it out. He's been porting DLC Quest to Mono game, and so he's blogging along the way, and he's into day 8 on and slugging through, and it's kind of good. I'm still following it, still reading it. It's not making me feel any better about Mono game still. But I did want to give another shout out, like, hey, check that out, because it's a really good article series. This is just I think we've talked a little bit about this, but this is just a good live example of what not to do. So the Amy game that launched, the horror survival, whatever Amy game that launched on Xbox and is coming to PlayStation soon or something like that. And a lot of people are like, this is ridiculously hard, not that great. The developers lashing out with it's not hard, it's not crap, it's just hard. And it's like, don't ever. You just gotta take your lumps, man. Do not ever go out and publicly engage. At best, go out to the reviewer and say, hey man, I see you didn't like this, and I want to ask you about this part that you said, this was hard. What, were you using this gun, or did you have this power up, or, I'm just trying to understand, like, we thought it would work this way, and it didn't for you, and I'm just trying to take that back and work better. Like, that's how you approach this.
Yeah.
And it's doubly so as an indie developer. Mainstream developers, you can get caught screwing around in Metacritic, and you know what? There's going to be a Battlefield next year. There's going to be a Modern Warfare 4. Indie developers do it, man, that just puts such a nasty overhang on your studio, and like, you're trying to get your name out there. You want to be like the Hero Academy. You're like, oh, those are the guys that did Orcs, Must Die. I love those guys. You don't be like, oh wait, those were the dicks that, said my game wasn't crap, I just sucked.
Well, even for not so indie developers, what do you think of when I say Kane and Lynch?
Well, I think of Jeff Grossman and Giant Bomb and,
exactly.
IGN is shit, writers. So, was it IGN?
I can't remember.
I think it was IGN.
But,
and also, when I think of IGN...
maybe it was GameSpot? Was that...
I think that might be even the same. I don't know.
Maybe something else.
But, I just think of, also when I think of GameSpot and IGN... This might have been IGN. I think it was IGN. This is an old one. I don't know if you remembered the McDonald's ad that was pop up over everything, and everything was McDonald's.
I didn't actually go there much.
There was a Penny Arcade article, and it was like, it looks like Grimace just took a shit all over IGN. That's also what I think about when I think of IGN.
Well, see, it's not that I even went to IGN that much, but when the sequel to that game came out, I was like, oh yeah, those are the guys who had the game so bad that they had to
payola their reviews.
Yeah. Second game,
when they were doing the Wikipedia, when they were doing the Giant Bomb was doing the whole call in, we'll be your Wikipedia and we'll just answer any questions. The chat was like, somebody call in and ask him his opinion on Kane and Lynch,
Wow.
All right. The last one that I have saved up here is, I think I get a point on this one. I think we get a Mike is right point. Not a full-on Mike is right, but in the Steam console is coming, guys. Step was that Alienware would make Steam boxes. And essentially, Alienware has made, this looks like a modern console, a PlayStation, Xbox. It's kind of angular. It's like if a 360 had some incest with the classic Xbox, It's a little bit slimmer, but it's got the angles of the older one. It looks nice. It looks nice. It is a PC, and basically it's designed for living room gaming. It's designed like, hey, put this out, looks like it'd go nice in the living room. It costs $700 in the basic configuration. There's a $1,100 configuration, but when you amp it up,
I bet either way,
not
it's
a whole lot of upgradable.
Gaming.
Not a whole lot of upgradable parts. Like, you could probably upgrade the hard drive. I think you can change out the graphics card, but a lot of other stuff is done on board, not slots. It's not made for that. Okay,
right.
And again, we might look at an $800 box and be like, I can still build a better $800 box than this, and that's true. But this isn't for us. Okay, this is for the people who are Steam gaming and hey, if my Steam Skyrim supports my Xbox controller,
sold.
Why can't I just plug my HDMI out of my computer into, the living room? I don't have to drag it out. We'll do crazy things. We'll lug a computer out. We'll run HDMI over Cat5 and have the computer in one room and walk out into the other or something like that. So this isn't really for us, but this is a good step towards the Steam console because you need to have this easy thing. So like the next phase, what next is like the large UI interface Steam that's navigable with a controller. So I have a controller in my hand, I can navigate my Steam library, launch my games, and play it. If you could combine that with this, and even, I'll even give a point to Metro here. Metro loading up on this and I'm controlling with a controller, Windows 8 Metro, that makes sense. Like, that would be a good use of all of this, and being able to launch that. Of course, the irony is that makes a Steam console and would destroy, a Steam console would destroy the console market. That actually makes
a second Microsoft console.
It, in a way, kinda, but they're so relegated at that point, like, they don't want to be the OS anymore. Like, they want to sell you all the upsell content. There was an article, I didn't pull it up, but like, they've sussed out, like in the new dashboard, only the Zune plays back, only Zune content plays back at 1080. All other content is downsampled to 720.
Really?
Yeah. And there's like some weird color correction thing going on. I just saw it, like a whole bunch of people profiled it, and it's like, that's some dirty inside, like what the hell's going on here, Now they kept saying like, why isn't Netflix at 1080p? And I'm like, you can't stream it at 1080p. Like, it's streamed at 720. So, you can't just magically make the pixels come back, I don't get that complaint. But the local streaming not happening at 1080, that was like, that's not cool, dude. That's not. But, so that'd be interesting. But yeah, so this is on the road, man. I'll put up another image of that thing. This thing does look kind of slick. I kind of like the way it looks, just in general. It's pretty slick. Ports right on the front, easy access to get to, slot load DVDs. Should be super quiet. I would wait for reviews on this, definitely. Yeah. Should be super quiet, because I want to know, like, what it's going to run. Like, the hardware and the specs inside of it, is this thing going to play Crysis 2? Not that I do. But could you do Skyrim on it? Or do you need to get the high end to run Skyrim, or does the $700 version...
Well, and especially with so many, there are a lot of media boxes like this you can buy.
But...
what does this buy you over them?
It shows, like, the interest is there. They're listening to my podcast. They're taking my ideas, and they're like, yes, he's right. This is how we'll save Dell. Execute on that, and it's only going to be good for indies, to merge this console PC living room box. If this materializes and there's more and more, because like if this box is out there too, it's just as easy for Indie City to make an interface that's control that you can navigate with the controller, and be able to, get my titles that way as well. And
yeah, it's not locked to a particular...
That's really good for indies.
Steam console is maybe a bit of a misnomer at that point.
But yeah, it is. Yeah. And you know what? I kind of don't want... Again, this might be an us level thing, not an average consumer thing. I really don't want it locked. Like, I want an actual real OS there that I could get in, tinker with, install stuff. I want to download user DLC. Maybe I want the Skyrim Big Ass patch. I hear that's popular.
I don't know what that is.
There's a Skyrim patch that not only are they all the women nude, but they have big asses.
I hate people.
Well, that could be.
And it's like the number one patch.
That cleans up the women so that they all look like.
Yeah, there's the white faces patch.
Mm-hmm.
So faces are kind of dirty.
Oh.
You don't want dirty naked women.
That actually sounded worse when you said, like, the white faces patch. Oh, really? Because, red guards. You don't like red guards. Is that it?
Yeah.
There's no Nubian queens in the white face patch.
I think they're both compatible. I think you can have big asses and white face. That's and I'm not even playing Skyrim, but I'm hearing on the podcast and all that, like, these were like the number 1 and 2, like the alter your inventory so that you can remove encumbrance or something like that is like 4 or 5 behind all of these.
That's kind of sad.
Useful one to the game.
That's really sad because it's kind of like with Xbox Indie Game. Hey, you can put any game you want on this console. It's totally open. Massage games, you know.
Yeah. Yes. But on my Steam
everything
console,
good
I
will
want
be
the
destroyed.
option. I want the option, you know, to add DLC, custom builds.
I think that's interesting because
and again, with Steam, you can launch any game with Steam.
Yes.
Like, the game doesn't have to be a Steam game. So if I could just, you know, like, I didn't buy this game over Steam, but I'll add it to my UI and then I'll launch it with my controller-based interface.
The difficulty you run into, though, is if you look at tablets and phones and stuff, actually the Lockdown OS is actually what sells, so probably will be the same for the set-top.
So, I did mention Indie City, and Indie City does let you take XNA games, and they're going to launch a store and let you sell them on the PC. If you haven't checked out Indie City, and you do have some XNA games, you may want to give that a look. You know, not everybody can get into Steam. I'm not exactly sure their criteria. I think they have some.
Yeah.
And some approval process, but it's still more open, and I think where they're at right now, they're working the legal so that they can pay developers, but other than that, I guess it's all done, is what it sounds like, from their posts on it. So that should launch fairly soon. And they mentioned that, I think they mentioned they have an adult category. So, you know, if big asses and white face, that's what you need, they're gonna have that too, I think. I may be wrong on that, but I don't think I am. Topic this week. RPG/adventure games, you know, sort of, breaking down the mechanics of what makes this. Kind of touched off this week, you know, playing a lot of Evil Quest, and, you know, that one does a good straddle the line of action RPG. You know, it's like, hey, I'm an adventure RPG, like I'm not RPG-ish enough to where you have to, spend time staring at character creation screens, stat attributions, but I still level you up, and, you know, you do have points to spend, so I have RPG mechanics, you know, involved. Some of the mechanics, that are RPG-like, and these can pop up in weird places and anywhere. These do not, like, you can put RPG mechanics into almost anything now, or it's acceptable, or people are doing that. So the main RPG mechanic, I guess, is the leveling mechanic.
Yeah.
You accrue experience, and then when experience reaches certain levels, you can put points into stats. Now, you can do this very obviously, which would be, say, Skyrim. I haven't played Skyrim, but it's Elder Scrolls, so I would just assume there's a strength, there's a dexterity, is there a...
There's actually... Skyrim kind of abstracts it out. Your three main stats that you can level up every level are strength, or health, magicka, and stamina. And they control, you know, your magic, your combat, and then, you know, your carrying capacity.
So they've streamlined it a little bit.
They actually have
still direct stats that you're pumping into.
Yeah, your main character creation choice is your race, and literally that's it.
And then your stats are your other stats, your secondary stats are computations off your main stat, and that's all exposed. There's numbers. The user sees those numbers, and they see very much how this helm affects this, and you know, okay. Yeah. Again, I haven't played Skyrim. I'm using it as your modern day typical RPG, what they're doing. Now, there's another route you can take with this. We talked a little bit of this last night. Dead Space has RPG elements, and they're not apparent until you break it down and realize, yes, these are RPG elements. Now, for experience, you're not gaining experience through action. The experience you acquire in Dead Space is currency, cash, that, you know, of course allows you to buy items and equipment, but does allow you to buy power nodes. And you also find power nodes in the game. And then you can take these power nodes and upgrade your equipment and upgrade your suit. But if you really stop to think about it, upgrading the health capacity of the suit is upgrading the health stat But it feels so abstracted unless you think of it as a developer. You don't realize, like, this is an RPG mechanic. You think of, like, no, I'm upgrading the physical suit the guy's wearing. I'm not, like, leveling up my character.
Well, it's kind of unobtrusive, I assume. I haven't played Dead Space, but I assume it's just
and
like
then there's also, like,
with...
buying new suits, which gives you new base level stats. That's like a major level up where you have some iterative skill development. Also, other ways to handle this is your WoW, your Diablo
tech
trees. So when the user hits a level or something like that, instead of giving them stats, okay, and you can still do that too. You can do both. Dungeon Defenders does no, they do stats. They don't do tech trees. Dungeon Defenders does specific stats that are one-to-one correlation. So you don't invest in strength. You invest directly into damage. You invest directly into towers do more damage, have a larger area of effect. But you have it looks like the reason I thought it is it looks like a skill tree because it's just a set of buttons. And then you click those items, or you click those buttons when you level up of like, hey, you get 4 points to spend them anywhere you want. The tech tree approach, you get a skill point or two, and then you have to unlock skills at a prior level before you can unlock them, and they all have a path to follow. So if you want the ultimate smiting of lightning spell, you're going to have to follow a pretty heavy path. Your advantage as a game developer here is you can combat the weakness of the stat-based system. If you put stats in front of me, if you put numbers in front of me, I'm a min-max player. So basically that means I will dump all my points into one stat at the exclusion of all others because I will try to break the game in a sense and become godlike. Let's say I just dump all my points into damage. Now everything takes one hit. Yeah. I'm paper thin armor, but it doesn't matter. Everything takes one hit. And so the one times I do get hit, I'll just chug a potion and, I will go on. You can combat this gameplay and keep your things in balance where you may want to have it, one, by having that tech tree. Because if I want one-hit kills, I'm going to have to spec this path and miss out on these other abilities, and the exact abilities that you can plan around and do it. An easier way, without having to balance a whole tech tree, is to make stats increasingly cost more. So the first 10 points in strength go up by 1. This is Dungeons & Dragons, actually. After you go above a threshold, 18, it takes 2 points to affect 1 point of change in strength. And it progressively, levels up harder than that to the point where it's like, well, it's going to take 10 points into strength to get 1 more point of strength, and it's not going to matter a whole lot of stats, and I could just turn around and dump 10 points into health, which I've neglected completely. Also, systems like that encourage you to go into secondary stats that aren't primary to gameplay. Like, I will never put stats by preference into something that enables me to carry more, because that's just kind of a bullshit mechanic anyway. I just kind of hate that. And the whole idea of, like, just so I can carry more loot, like, is not bettering my character, right? So, I hate that.
It's making it easier on you, but it's a artificial constraint.
If I have pushed my guys' levels to really difficult on all the stats I'm min-maxing, and then so I've got like a chunk of points to distribute at this next level, and I don't want to like dump all 25 points to get 1 point of strength in, it's like, well, you know what? I'll just dump 25 points on encumbrance. Boom, make that life a whole lot better. I won't take it up, to the point where it gets expensive, but I'll go ahead and spend a level on it. So that's another approach that you can have.
You can also kind of play with the weighting of the system. Like, I'm assuming in Dead Space, there's not, like, as you upgrade, it's slightly noticeable, but it's not like, holy crap, I just pumped all my points into, strength. This completely changes the game.
Well, I pumped all my points into one gun, max upgraded, a single gun, and yeah, so it's not like, as long as I got bullets for that gun, I'm dropping shit left and right. When I don't, that's when things are more of an issue.
I'm thinking more, I guess, of if you look at a game like Evil Quest or Secret of Mana would be my example, or Diablo is a good example of an adventure game that does that. Very, very heavily stat-based. Stat-based is baked into the game. If you look at a game like, and not only stats, but stats are influencing something random. Like, you're seeing the amount of damage, you're seeing these numbers. If you look at an adventure game more like Zelda, you're still doing upgrades and stuff. They're meted out very carefully, and there's a much smaller range
so
of
Zelda
change
is an example of upgrades to equipment.
Right.
So, and it's really pure equipment at Zelda.
Yeah.
It's your guy will do more damage with the sword. He will take less damage with this ring, which is a good way, like the tech tree, for balance, because you can decide when they get that item and what that item will alter. Now, it is important that you let the character feel their level has been upgraded. So when you're planning out the game, it could be real easy to have a linear equation that says, like, well, I'm going to give them 1,000 experience points, and they can increase their damage by 5 effective hit points on the creatures. So every time they level up, I'll level all the creatures up by 5 effective hit points. And that just feels like you're on this treadmill going nowhere, for the player. The player needs to feel like they're doing different. They're more powerful. Now, if you're in an RPG setting, one way of doing that is simply they just have to backtrack a lot. And when they backtrack across a zone that initially these guys used to take 2-3 hits, now I just smite them in one hit and walk on. Like, I feel like I get them up. And when I get to the dungeon that has been scaled up to my level, it's like, well, I'm at the harder dungeon now, and this feels proper. Another thing that you can do that is to, as you introduce new enemies throughout your game, those are the stronger ones, but continually reuse the earlier enemies in greater quantities, because like now I can mow down whole rows of bats, like bats I could just kill, stomp thousands of spiders where I used to fight one. I
killed 9 slimes in one slight.
Yeah, and that gives me the feeling that my leveling is going up. Some games rubber band, which is the process of making the encounters relative to the player's level and performance. If the player walks in and he's killing everything in one hit, then all the damage values start to go up so that just doesn't happen. That's dangerous territory, because when that gets exposed, the game rubber bands, it's an illusion shatter like you wouldn't believe. Like the football game, NFL Blitz, does that. So if you start tearing up on the defense, and you start just hey, I'm just throwing bomb after bomb.
It's kind of like in Mario Kart where,
all of a sudden, they throw 7 touchdowns in a row.
Shell.
Yeah.
Yes.
It is, and that really pisses off players. I mean, players really do not like that. I earned my place. I got good at this game, and then you pulled some crap out just because you didn't like me beating your game. That's what the feeling is. So be careful. Rubber banding can be good, but be careful using that.
Well, I think it works, and because that was one thing that I think Fallout did. Fallout did very heavily.
Rubber band?
Rubber band. I think Skyrim and Oblivion do for the random encounters. The point is, if you're doing rubber banding, it should be because combat is kind of like a secondary part of your game. If it's the primary part of your game, you're basically screwing the play experience.
Correct, yeah. So, now some other RPG elements in a game, of course, is questing. Right? That the user gets multiple quests, and they can do multiple quests, at one time. So they have mainline quests, maybe side quests,
optional quests.
Sometimes maybe they really have just one line of questing that really gets you less RPG, you're more adventure, if you're a linear path. And all this stuff is just kind of slider scales of how much of this, how much of that. It's really hard to say that's an RPG and that's not anymore. It's so all over the place. But questing can be used in your game to get somebody to go out of their way or do something they wouldn't necessarily look at or find, because there's a promise of a leveling up or a good shield or
Shiny.
something like, over here. I'm trying at the moment to think of some good, like, quests that are not in obvious RPGs, and that seems to be a staple of, like, hey, it's an RPG.
Objectives, kind of.
Yeah, but do you think of anything that, like, gives you objectives that aren't, like, linear objectives?
No, yeah.
Occasionally there's, like, secondary objectives of, like, get to this mission without
or do
alerting
this
a guard.
or do that.
Yeah. Like anything that's giving choices and stuff like that is Mass Effect, and it's like, well, that's an RPG,
Yep.
That would be something interesting for an indie to explore. There's territory to explore of, like, this kind of questing without revealing to the player it's questing. Kind of like where Dead Space is, saying, hey, you're leveling up and you're spending these experience points, but because we made it this, like, mechanical upgrade, you're an engineer and you're upgrading your suit and, welding this on, it doesn't feel RPG-ish. It feels like I'm this engineer who's finding scraps and put it together. And
to do that, you almost have to abandon the journal interface that a lot of games have with questing. I think you could take it outside the RPG realm with something like a Metroidvania style game, where you are using a lot of the backtracking and open world.
So usually in Metroidvania games, you restrict access based on equipment.
Right.
Like, well, you can't get up here because you don't have the right gun yet. And when you get the right gun, you'll come back here and you'll do that.
But the idea
questing
being,
would almost be allowing to branch in that scenario and, like, oh, you can go to either one. It's okay.
Well, now if you did primary quest line would open things up, but then side quests force you to explore that area. If the area is big enough, I guess that would be the way you would do it with that.
I mean, another good staple of RPG mechanics. Combat goes both ways. There's action-oriented RPGs. And then there's menu-based combat. Menu-based combat, of course, is an old throwback to days when action wasn't feasible. Reveals stats to the screen. If you go menu-based combat, though, I think you really should look into a lot of the modern menu-based combat systems, because they have highly evolved. It's no longer just a stat screen of, like, pick guy, attack, pick guy, attack. They have orders and randoms and wait times. What do you guys call that stupid bar on Final Fantasy?
Or break?
ATB?
Oh, active, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, ATB and combo
like
breakers and combo finishers.
That is one thing I've noticed about a lot of the RPGs on Xbox Live Indie games have some sort of mechanic that encourages you to finish quickly, to play risky, to, not to just, like,
don't linger.
hit fight.
Yeah.
Don't just keep hitting fight, which, I don't know.
Yeah, so, I don't have a lot to say on the menu-based combat and things taken from that, because that usually immediately turns me off on the game. Like,
I think you do have to make a decision about, since RPGs do have the open world element and also the stats-based combat element, you kind of have to figure out what your RPG is going to be about. Like, which of those elements is key and which can be...
Anything on chat?
Not really.
I mean, has there been anything said since...
Alienware?
Alienware?
Nope.
Okay, I didn't know if chat died on us or...
Nope. It's just not...
Got quiet. They all fell asleep. Well, speaking of which, I think that wraps up a pretty good discussion on RPG mechanics that you can think about and use in game development. And, like I said, they're appearing everywhere. You can put in an RPG style mechanic in almost any game, and it will greatly add to the depth of that game. If you just have a simple leveling up and a platformer, all of a sudden, it becomes a whole lot more deep and intricate. And for the most part, it's an easy system to implement because it's numbers. It's not like a whole lot of on-screen work has to happen.
Actually, a good example is Dead Pixels. Totally not an RPG game, not a standard. Not even like, it's kind of your standard beat 'em up style
scroller, yeah.
Scroller, but you're picking up items.
You're picking up items and you throw them in
shops. It's all about OCD stuff that I like about RPGs.
Well, all right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in this week and listening to the show. We're going to be back again next week. Like I said, look forward this week to some videos we might have up. I might get out the interview with Evil Quest. I'm productions phases of the interview we did there, and then also we've got a video to come out next week on some developer level commentary. And with that, since you're listening this far and you've tuned in this far, I'll let you know one of our ideas, since we do a lot of these trials and we've done a lot of them, is to let developers send us their game before it's out, so when it's still in playtest. Send us your game in playtest, and we will basically do a video of it. The catch is you have to let us post a video publicly, because it has to be something that serves for all developers, to come in and check out, and like, here's our comments, what we think you should do in the game. The game needs to be reasonably complete, but obviously, you're not done with it, because otherwise, why would we make suggestions on what we think we would do with the game if you're not going to implement them? So, and then you need to work that out with us in advance. Shoot us an email and let us take a look at it and see if it's something we think we want to do that. Because I'm gonna be honest, we're not gonna jump in and oh, look, it's a forced jumping scroller. Yeah. I don't think we have anything to add to this or say to this.
I mean, a lot of the things we've run into with trials are simple stuff. That's the stuff we notice first.
Yeah, it's almost like let us video on
the objective stuff as opposed to the subjective stuff.
Let us video an evil checklist run through. Although we wouldn't do that. And check that out. So if you're interested in that, podcast@GameMarx.com is the email address. You can also send any questions for the show. And last, as we mentioned last week, if you're interested in if you have a developer blog, if you blog your developer stuff, like Ben does with his daily articles, we're thinking of aggregating on GameMarx like Xbox Indies does for review sites. So that would be the review version. We would aggregate, link back to your site, and just kind of put a central feed of hey, here's a whole bunch of indie development news from the developers themselves. And for anybody interested in following that, they can subscribe to this one mega feed. Clicks go back to your site, not GameMarx, just like they do on Xbox Indies. It's a theory that, a rising tide raises all boats, so all of us together are better than, all of us separately type thing. And it has worked, Xbox Indies. GameMarx rose to a lot of traffic off of Xbox Indies referrals. So that worked there. Although I will say that, some point here, very soon, GameMarx's feed will be pulled from Xbox Indies because it's not review-based. So, should not be on that site. And I'll have to pull that down. So, alright. Thank you everyone for tuning in the show, and we'll be back in a week.